The Golf Biz with Mikey D, Drew, and the crew. Management, marketing, myths, and morons. Hope we make you smile.
Welcome to The Golf Biz. I'm Joe Dahlstrom with Mikey D, Drew, and the crew, where our one and only goal is to make you smile as we share our stories of managing and marketing golf courses all over America. So we have an amazing episode today. I have my longtime co-founder of Paradigm Golf Group, best friend Mike Abee here. And the episode is how, when, and why to buy a golf course. Mike took a different path, right? So I shared my path. Mikey shared his path, one that really had no other path. Drew had other options. He pursued the golf. But Mike, you really did not come from a golf background either, right? So before we get started into the specifics, why don't you kind of share a little bit about how you ended up in the golf business?
Graduated college as an accountant, became a CPA, worked at a CPA firm, became a chief financial officer of publicly traded real estate company. The market went in the tank in Southern California in 1990. We had a master plan community that included a Jack Nicklaus golf course. So we formed a golf company to go buy golf courses. Since I knew nothing about folding shirts or selling tee times, I became the due diligence guy and the guy who put together all the financial projections and so forth, and actually did what we do together now without much knowledge, which is like most consultants.
Absolutely.
If you've been keeping track out there, that's another one in the not nerd column.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a golf professional.
So we formed a company called Paloma Golf Group. I did all the due diligence, raised all the capital. That company bought 7 golf courses, sold them to Arnold Palmer Golf, who then hired me as a consultant to do for them what we had done to them as the buyer, and asked me. I did due diligence on roughly 60 golf courses a year. Arnold Palmer Golf bought 34 of them, then sold them. Their partners ran out of money, and they had bought enough. At that point, I became a consultant for the golf industry, still geek stuff. And then somewhere along the line, Paloma bought a golf course called Geneva National.
And that was the start of the greatest journey of your life, right? Tell us why that was the epic moment in your life, far greater than your wife and children.
Well, part of it was in 1985 was the first time I played golf, and I kind of got bit by it, which obviously makes you at the top of your field in terms of being in the golf business, right? So we bought a golf course called Geneva National, and that's where I met this gentleman over here. I won't tell you the story of exactly what he was doing when I met him, but we got together, and then we formed a golf company together. And ever since then, we've bought, managed, and done consulting, our 3 sort of prongs of attack. And that was 20 years ago.
Absolutely. And it's been an amazing journey, too. You can't find 2 people more different than Mike and I. And I could say that 20 years later, we have an amazing partnership, amazing friendship. And full disclosure, during this episode, Mike gets a little long-winded, drifts down a few paths. So if you feel like I'm being too hard or a little bit rude to Mike, it's like doing it to your brother, right? You know what I mean? So it's out of love, and to go ahead and scooch it, because Mike does have an amazing story to share. You know, Mikey D and Drew and I, actually, we come in every week and talk about really cool stuff that we feel is cool. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there that really are interested on the how, the why, and the when to buy a golf course. So the how is, let's say, the science of it, right? That's the technical stuff, the nerd stuff. And, you know, and as we go through this too, you know, Drew, you're new to the business, so you can add some insight from an outsider perspective. Mm-hmm. And Mikey, you've been on some of those trips, and you were more single focused on something that's important too. But Mike, when it comes to the how to buy a golf course, because there's people that think it's just real easy, right? It's like buying a commercial real estate building or a home, right? Kind of just take us briefly through the different steps on the how.
Yeah, well, following up with what Joe said, it is commercial real estate after all. So imagine you're buying a home. It's that process on steroids because you check out the home, you check out the market. With commercial property, there's the most important thing other than the geek stuff, which is raising the capital, running the numbers. Doing the escrow, title review, surveys, all that kind of stuff. The primary key is the due diligence process. When you buy a golf course, you do a letter of intent. Then you get somewhere between 30, 60, 90 days to do your due diligence. Due diligence goes from everything from deferred maintenance, what's broke, because if you buy a golf course, say for $5 million, and it happens to need $1 million of necessary repairs, not to mention the stuff you want to do to it to make it cool, you really, if market value is 5 million and that other number is $1 million, you really can only pay 4.
Absolutely. So when it comes to due diligence, right, there's appraisals for homes. It's really easy, right? Because there's 3 homes next to you. There's 3 homes to the other side of you, 3 behind you. They mesh that together with some formula, right?
Sure.
So when it comes to valuing the price, meaning that are you getting a good deal, a bad deal, a fair deal? Like, how do you go ahead and actually factor that?
Well, as you might know, appraisers take 3 approaches: market value approach, cost approach, and income approach. The most important is always the income approach. Golf courses have cap rates, just like mini storages, retail, industrial, all that kind of stuff. The cap rate in golf ranges, depending on the economic times, to a low of 9, which makes it more valuable applied to the net operating income, or 12, which is extremely conservative when you do that math. So you get an appraisal. It's not a drive-by for $300. It's $10 to $12 to $15, sometimes $20,000 for that appraisal. And they reconcile those 3 approaches. You get your appraisal. If we're talking about how, you take that to a bank where you want to borrow the money. They'll typically give you half up to 80% if you're a good negotiator of your price, and the rest is equity. If the golf course is $3 million, it's really not worth it for the equity partner to be behind the lender in terms of lien rights. So it's almost more convenient to just pay the $3 million in equity.
Yeah. I was going to say, I had a, sort of on the how topic. It's something where even with a commercial real estate building, something you rent out for other businesses to use, I don't think I've ever gone by a golf course that has a for sale sign. Or do most, buying and selling of golf courses, do they happen where a buyer approaches them, or if they know that they're floundering or something they don't want to be in? Do people typically go out and look for buyers? Like, how does that process work too?
Typically, there are some, as you described, where 2 people happen to know each other and so forth, or they run into each other, and sometimes those deals are good because there's no competition. But typically, an owner of a golf course that wants to sell lists the golf course with a golf broker. Not just any broker, but there's a handful of companies that specialize in just golf courses only. One of them is CB Richard Ellis, and they list the golf course, and then that process starts. You get offers, you select one, and then you're down the road like I described.
But after you sign a letter of intent, you tied it up, meaning that nobody else can go ahead and pursue purchasing it, right?
Yeah, it's they have to stop marketing it to everybody else, even though your upfront deposit for that is completely refundable until expiration of the due diligence period.
Absolutely. And so as, you've been doing this for a long time, right? And we've been doing it together for 20 years. And how have you seen it change over the period of time? We've been through a recession, a pandemic. We've been through a lot. So what's been the evolution of, how to buy a golf course?
In the early 90s, there were a lot of good deals. The golf was undersupplied, so it penciled out really well. Then you got to all the master plan communities in the country that wanted to get more money for their houses because they were on a golf course. So golf got extremely overbuilt in the early 2000s, or for the first, 2000 to 2010. Then things changed again when we had sort of what I'll call the recession of 2007, 8, that type of thing. presently, where we're at now is that the overbuilding in the past 7 or 8 years, for the first time in the history of golf, more golf courses were closing than opening. It used to be virtually none closing and hundreds new ones. So new openings, and we're going to talk a little bit about, do you want to buy a golf course and bulldoze it, turn it into real estate or something? Yeah.
That will be in the myths and morons section.
So currently, golf courses are, there's not many for sale. There's a little bit of a lack of supply because the overbuilding is burned off because of the closings. And so it's a pretty good time to buy a golf course and not overpay for it.
Yeah. So just, for guys like Drew and even Mikey, who is on the operational sales marketing, these two are the geniuses on that side, right? They're the ones that handle it after they buy it. What are the top 4 factors? You don't have to go in extreme depth when it comes to buying a golf course, like the how. Like, what's the most important things to look at?
I would say top 3 would include deferred maintenance. A lot of people make the mistake of buying a golf course and then find out that they need $1 million that they didn't even provide for on the front end. Obviously, everything, number 1 is what its potential is and where it's at today. So it's a little scary to buy a golf course that loses $500,000. Absolutely. Although we've done it pretty successfully.
Yeah, we have. Those are called dogs with fleas. But you know what? For a long time in our company, Mike and I laughed, we kind of were crap magnets. You know what I mean? The worst a deal, it kind of attracted us.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the business, that's called turnaround deals, right? Yeah. Higher risk, so forth. The sweet spot, unless you have tremendous skill at erasing $500,000 pretty darn fast before everything craters, you'd like a golf course that kind of breaks even because there's no income approach to put on it because the answer is 0. So you can probably get the best price because everybody knows if you make no money, it's not worth as much. Right?
Absolutely.
But if that's the sweet spot and it breaks even or it comes within $100,000 of that or so, it's important to have a business plan, which is where I used to come in by myself without nearly the knowledge about what's going to happen next. You have to predict the future. And if you're wrong, there's 15 things that automatically go sideways.
Absolutely.
So in our organization these days, I do the due diligence. Joe absolutely is there for all of it, but he really evaluates the market. Can we make money here? And if so, then our process is I do the pro forma without Joe of what I think, and then Joe troubleshoots it. And, an interesting story is the first one we did where Joe was very involved. He said, well, Mike, these are 8-year projections. He says, Mike, first year, slam dunk, no problem. Second year, absolutely. Third year, but I just want to let you know that out in year 8, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And my answer was, Joe, everything multiplies and it's kind of, but you understand that in 12 years or in 8 years, the Big Mac won't be selling for, $1.69. It'll be $3.99. Yeah. And ever since then, especially the last several years, he says, Mike, I just want to let you know that the Big Mac is on the 99-cent value menu.
Exactly. Yeah, I could see the future. Yeah. So, the how is, when you go through this, and I think what Mike just talked about, Mike has done it so many times. He's truly brilliant in doing it. And, there is a little different spin when our company does it because whether we're going to be the buyer or we're going to be the one to manage it, and this is not intended to be arrogant, but we love turnaround deals, right? And we're the only management company on earth that will structure a deal based on performance, right? So, Mikey, you've been a part of a few, and, one of the most wonderful qualities you have is you are an internal optimist too. So when you've gone on a few of those due diligence trips and you did it because, Mike had all the heavy lifting and the hard stuff. So, what have you seen to actually be beneficial when it comes to figuring out the potential and upside of the property?
So when Mike had called me in on any deals in the due diligence process, I'd had the opportunity to really do a big market analysis. We primarily look for deals that are highly competitive and maybe even a little overbuilt. We would rather take a highly aggressive, highly competitive market with a big market with a lot of golfers involved in it than a market with no competition and no golfers, because that right there is a dog. There's nothing you can do about that, but you can out-edge, outcraft the competition. So we take a look at what the average daily rates are, what the average rounds are, what the market's like, where it sits in the market, the location, and we kind of evaluate what the upside is based on those premises.
Drew, you've only been in the business a short period of time. You've done wonderful, but you've pretty much recognized what it takes to turn around a property, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that Dobson Ranch specifically had a lot of things going. It was a beloved golf course, but it was like a lot of city courses are out there today, and, you know, they're hurting. They were in the wrong. They were losing a lot of money, you know, for whatever the reasons were, which as an outsider at first, I thought, well, dude, how can this be such a busy golf course and still not make money? Why would we take the deal? And as you guys started to walk me through it, and it was exactly like Mikey said, it's a highly competitive environment. There's a golf course on every street corner pretty much in our area, but that at least we know there's a lot of golfers to fill that. Absolutely. And so if we go out there and we seek the golfers and we, you know, take them from our competition, being competitive people, I loved when you said, I have no mercy. I'm here to crush everyone. You know, it's kind of nice to have the guys down the street not want us to come play there because we're just decimating them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's part of the formula, right, Mike? You know, that is a piece to determine what it's worth and when you do your perform and your projections.
Yeah, and the big difference in the last 20 years as Paradigm, as us as being a group, when I did it for 20 years before that, at best it was an educated guess, right? Because I'm not a market guy, I'm not a sales guy, I'm not a business growth guy. I've learned quite a bit of that from you guys, and I can do it now. Not as good as you, but I'm more of a historical geek, right? We got to prove stuff when you want to raise money.
Sure.
Okay. And without, you know, with all my bias accepted, this company, Paradigm, our company, has never, ever projected big business growth that most people don't even believe and exceeded it 100% of the time. Absolutely. And that's unheard of. There are going to be listeners out there who will say that's impossible. Actually, it is, except for what we've been able to do, which makes things really easy for me because I can brag and say, I told you so.
Absolutely. No, that is cool, right? And, you know, there's a lot of amazing things about Mike and I's partnership and our company as a whole, Mikey, Drew, and, you know, there's so many more of us too. You know, we have just a wonderful team. But I can say that, you know, with Mike Abee and I being totally different people, you know, Mike, we've had some meetings that are hilarious, right? You know, there's meetings where our client or potential client are highly entrepreneurial, where, you know what, they seem to gravitate towards me. And then there's the highly institutional ones that definitely gravitate to you. I think that in our early years, we struggled with identifying that and actually kind of got ran out of some meetings, right? You know, some total failures. But the good news is we always laughed about it.
Well, we were also recognizing it during the meeting and going back and forth. In fact, I can recall a meeting where it was so stressful for the third person in the meeting that he said, I just can't take this anymore. Are you guys brothers? And we said, well, kind of. And he said, I just, this is too stressful. You guys are having an argument.
Yeah. So we've learned to either, you know, separate, meaning that depending on what, you know, the clients were looking for, it's always about what's best for them. And we've acknowledged that, but, you know, we've really had some amazing laughs too throughout the process and, you know, the chapters in the book. So let's shift a little bit we understand the how, right? You do the letter of intent, you do a purchase agreement and all this different due diligence, performance and all that. And then they perform, right? And then the next thing too is important because I think the why people buy golf courses, because we get phone calls all the time, right? And there's people buy them for various reasons. And so, you know, you've done 10 times, 20 times more of this than I have. So, you know, give us some common whys people buy golf courses.
Well, remember that golf is nothing more than another type of commercial real estate. All the ones I mentioned. The whys range from, and the first why is why I did it. Because it's kind of cool to own a golf course. I was playing golf, I liked it, and so forth. Fortunately, I was protected by our collective group here, but you know, from doing the wrong thing. But in our company, the reason why Joe and I complement each other is because Joe pushes the envelope and takes risks. I've spent my whole life in finance. reducing risk and trying to eliminate it. Well, you can't have any fun and you can't be very entrepreneurial if you're not willing to take any risk.
Absolutely.
So Joe pushes the envelope and I cover our butt.
Absolutely.
As we go. And it's a great compliment.
And absolutely. I think that would cover the reason for investment, right? There's people that, we saw it when the rest of the world is booming, right? In, commercial real estate, home building and other businesses are booming, right? That's when a lot of people want to diversify and maybe try to get into a business that they don't know or they don't understand, but it's one that could potentially be available because the cost of getting into those other businesses is a lot, right? So, we saw that when we started our company. So I think one, from an investment perspective, you covered, from the traditional approach, but, the one now too, the why is, and the one I get a laugh out of because it's probably the most misconceived that, you get real estate developers and, hey, these guys are far more financially successful than me and in numerous ways way smarter than me. But they think they can just buy a golf course and shut it down and start building homes on it 2 weeks later, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that process. We've both been through it. It's been hilarious. So just kind of walk us through how that works.
Well, my first career was home building. It just happened to have golf on it. But when the entitlement process to change a golf course, first of all, if you've got people living around the golf course, you better have about at least a $500,000 budget for lawsuits. Okay, then it takes at least one, depending on where you are in the country, 1 to 2, sometimes 3 years to get approvals. The bad news is your due diligence period is 90 days. So when you buy the golf course, because it's theoretically worth nothing, you're just left holding the bag. So these are extremely high-risk deals. And even if they're not high risk, the carrying cost of the property or the mortgage you get on the golf course, which you can't turn into homes for 3 years, you just drowned in that.
Absolutely. Drew?
Okay.
Okay, I thought you had a question. But so on that process, what are the things that, because a lot of people just buy these sight unseen, right? And I think that was an experiment that started 3-4 years ago. What are the tells that actually are going to make it way more difficult, when it comes to deed restrictions, things like that, especially if they're in a community?
Are you talking about bulldozing?
Yes.
Golf courses?
Yes.
Oh, well, the CC&Rs, covenants, restrictions on many residential homes around golf courses, the CC&Rs simply say it has to be a golf course forever. So if you happen to miss that, you're really screwed.
Yeah, because that process is nearly impossible to overturn or change, right?
Oh, it's a deed restriction. You can't do it, right?
Yeah.
And if it sounds bizarre, there are many people who buy golf courses quickly, and they don't even know that.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to due diligence. You have to read all the documents, the title reports, the underlying documents, everything there is about the project. In addition to what Mike and you do extremely well is to sort of confirm what I might think or tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And then we go ahead during the due diligence period, get our money back and move on to something else.
'Cause we've seen that. And, if it is zoned, not the correct one, recreation, whatever it might be, the land itself, that process, there's a lot of people that just thinks it's easy. But what they don't realize they're up against, and probably it was probably one of the greatest learning experiences I've ever had. It actually happened near your hometown.
Okay.
And it was a very long process, but there was 2 golf courses that the owner, and this was different because he wasn't some nuclear developer that just did it. He owned them for a long time. They weren't going to work. We did the best we could from an operational perspective, and he wanted to turn 2 into 1 and really do a nice job in doing that with just some small carve-outs. But one of our roles was to be the pitch man, right? And I'm like, hey, I've always admired the ShamWow dudes, you know what I mean, up there, the pitchmen. I said, I'm it, man.
They had you at hello.
I know. Yeah, dude, I loved it because I went up there and I thought I was going to wear my little fancy pants up there and go ahead and tell a few stories. These people were going to fall in love with me and they were going to dominate that vote. Well, it did not happen. After 30, actually, I think close to 30 town hall meetings, my life was practically threatened. My wife was reached out to, and just the one thing I couldn't believe was the amount of passion that the homeowners, and I get it now, right? Because there were a lot of wonderful people involved, that they were just scared. Unfortunately, we took an honest approach, and they didn't really truly believe it, that it was the honest approach, and it ended up very unfortunate for all parties. But I just want to tell you that process that we just talked about, the ones trying to develop it into real estate, it is things that I consider our company the number one around to do it, but it is a little more difficult.
I guess one of my big questions too is, if you don't have the deed restrictions and you can do it, what is it that a homeowner would be like? What would make them opposed to it? Is it going to make their home value less, or what? Like, what's their biggest point?
Well, there's no question, which runs to the why again. Okay, sometimes homeowners associations or a group of residents inside a master plan community buy the golf course to protect their home values, because if you bulldoze a golf course that's surrounded by 1,000 or 2,000 units, it is proven that the golf courses, the homes that are either on the golf course or can see the golf course can depreciate instantly without the golf course by about 40%. And if you live in the community and it's a big one and you don't even know there's a golf course there, you're looking at 20%.
Yeah.
And that stuff just happens.
And maybe this comes from, the 30 town hall meetings being on the other side of that. There's certain properties that is the exact case. I wouldn't debate that. However, there are golf courses that aren't going to make it no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. So I think sometimes if you do live in, a community like that, one, I'd recommend sell and move out as quick as possible if you hear it happening. That's tip number one. But if you want to hang in there because you love your thing, I would actually really just listen to what the plan is, because a dead golf course is worse. A dead and abandoned golf course is worse for your property values than actually some types of redevelopment.
And that is probably the single biggest reason why bulldoze deals happen, because the golf course is failing and the homeowners don't get to say golf course or no golf course, because no golf course means weeds, graffiti, unsafe, and so forth.
Absolutely.
And when that baby goes to weeds, the 40% you'd hope for.
Absolutely. And plus, it's just the story behind it, right? It's in the newspaper. It's a black eye. Mike, are you awake up there still?
Yeah, I'm here. Absolutely. I'm loving this.
Absolutely. Well, Mikey, you know what? You happen to live in an area, because, Mike lives in California. It's very difficult. We've done projects mostly just on the West Coast or the Midwest. But down in Florida, they seem to be converting real estate or home developments into golf courses. I'm sorry, the other way around. Golf courses and home developments pretty rapid, right?
They are. They're going like crazy here. And it is county by county. So each municipality has their different restrictions when it comes to the conversion. But here, being the golf capital of the world, I think we had more golf courses than any state in the nation. That now we're going to have more people than anywhere in the nation, because the popularity of Florida and the amount of people moving here. So they've definitely taken a much more liberal approach when it comes to changing golf courses now to more communities. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's been 6 properties here just locally in Palm Beach County and Boca Raton that are now closed, condemned, or being developed as we speak.
Yeah, and that, I think that's good for the golf business. That correction actually gives everybody a fair shake to go ahead and do it. Helps us too, because I think we're first to market and actually acquire those customers too. So, it really is state by state, county by county. We have not actually ever found one that was that easy, but there's always a fight. There's always a little battle. But, Mike, you seem to enjoy the battle.
Yeah, I mean, when you're all done and you've purchased the golf course, the next thing that happens is you operate it. You're vested in it after you've bought it. You certainly do care about it. And so everything that Andrew does every day, everything you do to orchestrate multiple golf courses, Mike has multiple golf courses that he oversees. And it's really a joy to wake up almost every morning, and have Mike call me and say, yo, Mikey, we murdered it. We killed it today.
Stacks on stacks.
How much? He says, there's 3 more days in the month. We'll beat it by $30,000 this month. And again, you would be hard pressed to find any other golf course in America. That's a bold statement. Yeah. That can actually talk about the kind of growth that we do. And going back to due diligence just for a second, okay, the key to all of this is whether it be the due diligence, whether it be the operations after, it takes way more skill than you would think. Way more skill, way more hard work. I would not call it complicated, but it's extremely time consuming. It's a game of inches, and you have to have new ideas all the time, as opposed to, you know, the bigger golf companies in the world that post the rates on January 1st, do the payroll for the entire year on January 1st, and then when it rains, they're spending payroll that they didn't need. So we are considered to be a fast break golf company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what you said too, it's a huge point to make. Is not complicated, and it's something I always talk about. You know, whether it's with employees or other people, there's a difference between easy and simple.
Right.
Simple is something that's not complicated, sort of like you talked about. But the reason that it's not easy is because you have to be engaged. If we didn't have me, Mikey, and Joe kind of firing on all cylinders, looking at the weather, looking at everything every day, then we would just be like everybody else. We'd be sitting back and we'd say, oh, that was the wrong mistake we made 6 months ago. But if we see that coming, then we're kind of the morons for not acting on it, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact we have the ability to act and do it, it isn't rocket science, but something as easy as going in and taking the effort to do it, that's the most important part.
Absolutely.
Well, in operations, let me tell you about two things that you have to overcome. Golf is the only classification of commercial real estate that's weather dependent. If you have an office building, got some flowers around it, it rains, people still coming to work, paying their rent. When it rains at a golf course, you're pitching zero, okay? And if it rains 4 days in a row, so you have to overcome that. Therefore, that's why it's so important to be killing it, right? Because sometimes in some months you have to make up for 3, 4, 5, 6 days closed. The second thing is that the product that you're selling is different than any other commercial real estate category. It's alive. It lives. It's grass. It gets sick. It gets diseased, right? Yeah. It gets burned out and those kinds of things. Absolutely. So
a little dark there, but totally does make sense too.
A little dark, but better to know about it during due diligence.
Absolutely. And I think that buying it correctly and what Mike does is so important, because if you buy a golf course that loses $200,000 and you really want to buy the golf course, but you get an 80% loan to value, right? Which means that you have to put up 20%, and your debt service is $450 a year. Right. And if your EBITDA or your NOI is not $450,000 plus to cover the interest on that loan, you're gone. Banks don't care how cool you are. Banks don't care how long you've been in the business. You're just out.
Right.
Yeah. So just knowing that, that's there. And especially, we've had deals where, we've had partners buy it where they didn't have any money left over either. So if it rained or whatever, we had to figure it out. I remember, Mikey, way back in the day, we were a little light on payroll. Me and you and Travi and the guys, we had to get on the phone and start slinging players cards for the previous years. And I think it was like July.
That's
we
right.
Had to sell
I do remember.
Remember, that was funny, right? Because we had to make payroll.
You got to innovate.
Yeah, and we picked up the phone, started selling players cards and membership packages, in July for a program that would start 7 months from then, right? Yeah. And we had to do it in a way that they didn't know we were desperate. But, that's a survival mode you have to do. And, the bank's got to get paid. It's a completely unemotional process. So let's shift to the when to buy golf courses, because there's a lot more factors here too, especially if you have limited equity and to put up and, after you purchase, and then also, there's a market shift, right? Because if the interest rate is 7 or 3 or 10,
makes a big difference.
It makes a massive difference. So just from that perspective, the when, right? Let's just say that you're buying a golf course for $5 million. You're going to put $1 million down. So your loan's going to be $4 million. What would be the estimated at 3%, 5%, and 7%? I'll put you on the spot, just roughly.
The estimated what the number is
per year.
Do I need a calculator here?
Nah, just give it to you. You know what? You're the number geek.
Well, 3% is 3% of $4 million, so 120,000, right? So did I get that right?
It's faster math than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me sort of go global and say that when golf courses are best to buy is when the market isn't good. Unfortunately, access to capital when the market isn't good is also not there.
Right.
So you want to find a sweet spot. You don't want to buy when there's a rush. You should avoid, standing in line and overbidding, which comes back to the Las Vegas one we did.
Absolutely.
And of course, there's seasonality as well, which is, if you're, say, in Phoenix, Arizona, you probably want to try to avoid closing escrow on June 1st.
Absolutely.
Like us.
Exactly. No doubt.
Right.
Well, because that could make a $300,000 to $600,000 swing, and just when it comes to interest rates, it could be a several $100,000 swing each year you have to make to cover debt service.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors on the when also, and then the seasonality. If you take one over in August in the desert, you have to pay for the overseed. There's a lot of processes, and people don't realize that you're going between the losses and everything else that you got to have an extra $300,000 to $700,000 to bank just to go ahead and cover those.
Yeah, going back to due diligence, when you do your sources and uses, that ends up in a report that we give, and sometimes that report says this dog doesn't hunt. But when you do your sources and uses, you have to look at that and always make sure you have some working capital reserves, which isn't earmarked for anything, just in case, like we've done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And the when too that makes a difference is the economic outlook when it comes to the golf business, right? And when Mikey did his due diligence, and I think Drew, you brought it up when we were talking about it, is that understanding the feeling about, is golf growing, is it not growing, is it popular? Because if the economy isn't so hot, golf is 100% discretionary, right? You need to eat, you need to get from point A to point B, you need transportation.
You need a hospital, need a grocery store, you need everything.
But you don't need golf, right? So when it comes to, understanding like the golf, that doesn't scare me as much because, and maybe that's why we've maybe made some missteps along the way, but because, you can overcome that, because if one's going to survive, we're going to make sure it's us. But I think that people have to really look at that too, and then be creative on the marketing side. I just want to take a step back too on the why, because this is the one that just kind of makes me laugh, because we've done a lot of these, and that's the one they buy for like pride of ownership, or they want to buy their son or daughter a job. We've had these.
Oh yeah,
we didn't make that up.
Absolutely.
Right. And those are the best because they're highly successful. These individuals are wonderful people, but they got a lesson along the way. And we've had to bail some of them out, after a year or two, right?
Right. We'd like to manage your golf course. Well, I have a son that wants to do it. Has he ever done that before? No, but he's really smart.
Yeah. Or it's even worse. Well, he really has no direction. He really doesn't know what he wants to do, but he started playing golf and he really likes it.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew, you recently graduated from college, so you remember your fraternity, right? And
Yeah,
I'm sure
of course.
a lot of those fathers and families and parents were wealthy. How do you think that a lot of your fraternity buddies would have done managing golf courses straight out of their college years?
If your definition of managing is riding in the cart next to your customers, buying them rounds, that's one of the biggest things too, is when you're out there, you're the one playing. It's easy to be the fun guy everything's on me. Yeah, I run the place. I could do whatever I want. And you're just going to dig the hole deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? There's a different way to be cool.
Absolutely. And I think that people don't realize the amount of dookie that you eat in the golf business, right, Mikey? You've once actually said that you are a professional dookie eater. Would you agree with that?
I am a human porta potty at times. Yeah, absolutely. But the funny part about how I address problems is I never necessarily solve them. I just try to make people feel really good about them. So that's, and then shift it to another thing that's kind of cool.
The number one tool in Mikey's kit is the volume control on the music.
Absolutely. I've seen him do that. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, no doubt. Just to shift the vibe. So Mike Abee, so you know what? We're going to go ahead and move on to Miss Morons, a little contest. But before we actually go to break, how do you foresee buying golf courses in the next 10 years? We're coming out of a pandemic, and as you know, even with our properties, some are doing exceptionally well. Some are struggling because, they rely on visitors and conventions and stuff like that. So how do you foresee the future in buying golf courses?
Well, we already talked about the fact that the overbuilt marketplace has started to reduce significantly. So that in and of itself is great. What's happened very recently is with the coronavirus. Okay, golf courses are absolutely picking up customers, picking up rate, because with all the debate about businesses that are directly affected and other businesses that nobody even thought would be affected at the present time, there hasn't been any debate. And what's emerged from that is that golf, I'll say this globally, but golf may be one of the only things that nobody's arguing whether it's safe or not. Yeah. And so we're seeing the golf course manufacturers are selling clubs faster than they can make them for the last several months. We and others have seen business pick up because it's safe, it's a walk in the park, and it's appreciated. So I think that's going to continue. It's going to give us a little boost. And I think the next few years, especially before the golf gets so hot that you're back in the bidding war again, the next few years are going to be a really good time to buy golf courses. Yeah.
And here's where I'm going to make a prediction.
Hey, Mike.
It goes back. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
Mike, I was going to ask you, can you actually get financing for golf courses right now? Because obviously after 2008, there isn't a bank in the world that would offer you $1 for a golf course. So that's shifted too now, right?
A little bit. Their conventional financing has always been fairly scarce. But the good news is that I would say 80% of golf courses that are for sale all over the country, other than in high profile areas, like California, for instance, are, the price range is $2 to $5 million, which makes financing. In other words, if putting up $5 million is better than borrowing.
Yes or no?
And what was the question?
That was one of those long-winded ones.
Yeah. So, can you get financing, conventional financing for golf courses? It's out there. Your best source is a local bank that has the wherewithal to loan in the price range you're looking to borrow. So it can't be a small bank, but the Bank of Americas and so forth, Wells Fargo Bank, forget about it unless you put up a guarantee or the amount of cash of the loan is restricted to make sure it gets paid back.
Sure, absolutely, makes sense.
And my prediction, which was going to be on golf and its growth and everything going forward, when things stabilize and the bidding war comes back, I am confident in saying that one thing that we have that's a leg up, and we talk about it a lot, but we're not just selling the golf. We're not selling the course. We're not selling the course conditions, where all those things help. We really are, I'm confident that we're going to keep so many of these people we've acquired as customers, and the retention's the next big step. Because if they're playing golf because they don't have a choice and they're trying all these golf courses, and 90% of them, it's just a golf course. So you get pointed to the first tee and you go play. Any of the golf courses like us that have an atmosphere, you have other amenities, you have other options, that's going to be kind of the make or break when it does get down to crunch time again. Absolutely.
And I think that's a point well made, because I think the ones that are going to come into golf, it's going to be a generation of don't want the traditional style. So us jamming music, the Jello shots and the Malibu shots, basketball courts that Mikey D's got going on, the blaring music. We've seen it, and it's going to continue to work. I agree 100%. And pivoting with the top tracer, and we have cornhole at all our properties. We have pool tables. We have golden tees, and that's the thing that people are going to want to do some different things too. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and have a battle of the ages, because we got the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, Mike. Right? We'll go with that.
That's right.
All right. So we're going to do that. We're going to do and. The video we're going to play is Going Rogue, Rolling Chrome. The only reason I want to play that one is that was our promotion of Callaway equipment, and I think it's hilarious. It's after a Kenny Chesney song, and to be a little bit bitter, we thought Callaway would be cool and maybe promote it, but nah, they were stiffs. No love for us. But anyway, the video is super cool. Enjoy it. We'll be back in just a minute.
Feeling sexy like Michelle, we are her biggest fans. Going rogue.
Knock, knock, guess who? All you two are pros. PBN sliding in, we're going rogue. Let me send a message, let's be clear. We work 7 days a week and we love slugging here. Our weekend warriors, that's who I mean. Flirting with the card girl, scoring bogey. Stop listening to all the child prodigies saying, I'm Justin Thomas and I play the Pro V. Grab a tasty chrome, don't be shy. Swing for the fences and did I just hit that guy? Best deal in town is the Callaway Chrome, cause the Pro Vs, man, those will make it go broke.
Thanks again, everybody. Hope that you got a smile watching our Going Rogue, Rolling Chrome video there. And thanks again for sticking with us through our world record setting length episode here. No, it's been really exciting. We're here for the part I know you've all been waiting for, is our game. So, Joe, why don't you tell us what we're going to be doing today?
It is the battle of the ages. We got Drew in the 20s. We got Mikey that's in the 30s for about another, 4 days. And then you got me, in the bottom end of 40s. Kidding. And then Mike, we're going to give him the 50s. We're going to round down. But anyway, so what the contest is going to be, the beautiful Tabitha from Brandlink. She's the brains behind this place. Sorry, Josh and Kyle. Right. She also is the one that works with us at our golf course in Las Vegas, Valley High. I drive her nuts, change her mind. She is has a brilliant marketing mind and absolutely very patient. So thank you. So Tabitha, you're going to go ahead. You have 4 questions, right?
I sure do. You guys ready?
Yeah,
absolutely. So these the one that gets the most right is the champion. And Mikey, eyes forward, and then you can look down briefly, write it in there because I don't trust you.
Okay.
Right.
So we are writing these down.
Yes.
All right. Question number 1. In which U.S. state would you find Mount Rushmore? Question number 2, a little pop culture for you. Who does Michael Scott hit with company property on company property in The Office? We've got number 3.
Hold on 1 second. I'm just percolating that one a little bit.
Let it think.
I skip it and come back.
Yeah. Okay. I go on. Sorry.
The Yukon River flows northwest into Alaska before emptying into what sea? Didn't want to make it easy for you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Wow.
I'll give you a hint. The answer is not the Pacific.
There it is. Thanks.
That's like a lake, right?
Sure, yeah.
Of course, I've never watched The Office, so I have no chance on number 2.
Yeah.
And then for the next one, we've got, what are the names of the children of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West? There are 4. For a little extra knowledge.
4 kids?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
lost
gotta
track
get
of them,
2
so
right?
that came as a surprise to me. We'll say whoever has the most right of those 4 will win.
Got it.
I think I'm pitching a 0.
I think I have 2 for sure.
These were not the questions you told us we were using earlier.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready? Mikey, you ready?
South Dakota.
Well, that was
Booyah.
For number 1, that is correct.
I got
Rushmore
South Dakota,
is
1
in
for
South
me.
Dakota.
Nope.
Dude, the millennial got that one wrong?
Yeah, of course. We don't even have geography class anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. I was going to
Stupid.
make a politically incorrect comment there. You'd be proud of me, Drew.
Oh,
I
well, good for
backed
you.
up.
Okay, 3 1s and a 0.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, who hit company property? Who was hit with company property on company property in The Office?
I had Dwight.
I had Dwight.
That is incorrect.
Mikey, who do you have?
I said Skippy because I don't know who it was.
You don't know either?
I had no answer.
Yeah.
Heathens, guys, come on.
Heathens.
It's Meredith.
All right, geez, all right. So
Meredith.
That's a multi-generational
I
phenomenon.
actually did watch that show, so okay.
I didn't.
All
What are you going to do?
Well, the Yukon River flows into the Bering Sea.
Dude, got
You
it.
were wondering?
Check it, bro.
You got it?
Dude, I was a geography freaking dropout.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Still pitching a 0.
All right, so it's between Mike and I, unless he gets the Kanye West question.
Yeah, no, I picked Arctic.
Same there, Mikey.
Yeah.
Close.
That is close, Mike.
I should have known. I watch enough Deadliest Catch.
Yeah, no doubt.
Alrighty. Well, let's see.
Yeah, the Bering Sea, I should have known
Who has all
that.
4? Does anyone have all 4?
Nope.
No.
Does anyone have 3?
No.
2?
I got
Blue,
got
Star, and
2.
I
North.
have 2.
All right. Well, the children are in order: North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm.
So
I had North.
Okay. It's between me and you, pal.
I had north, south, east, and
what do you
apple.
got? What were your answers?
That sounds close enough. Right.
I
On
got
trend.
Ye Jr. and Maximilian.
Dude, champion of the world. I got north. I picked spring also, which is wrong, but that makes me the winner, right?
I
Because
mean,
we were tied at 2, and he got none right.
that should.
Wait,
Yeah. That,
Mikey, how many did you get? Kids' names?
He has none.
Hey, I had blue and star. Isn't that one? Blue and star?
No.
No, just
No.
north. We all had north.
You have North?
But it doesn't matter.
he
It's a
didn't have
tiebreaker.
it.
Yeah.
Because we were at 2.
Yeah.
yes.
Can you announce
You
that I'm
are
the winner?
officially
Can you do it
the
then?
winner, Joe.
Okay.
Our
Perfect.
winner of the contest is Joe Dahlstrom.
Booyah. Dominated you guys.
There it is.
Worthless. Tabitha, thank you so much for being on this episode. Mike Abee, thanks for the friendship, the partnership the past 20 years. Drew, Mikey D, you got anything, any closing thoughts?
No, I just appreciate you guys doing all the nerd work. Mike, without you, we wouldn't have deals for Mikey and I to go crush it.
Yeah. Mikey, any
that's
final
the rumor.
words of wisdom?
Just remember, if you're going to build it, doesn't mean they're going to come. Shake it up.
Right on. Well, thank you, everybody. Next episode, it will be awesome. We haven't figured it out yet, but we know it'll be awesome. But we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
From the T to the green, and the P to the B. Skip the plumb bob, drop the plumb bob, lose the plumb bob. Who needs a plumb bob? From the T to the green, and the P to the B.